Hi kids, Miss Nancy here. I'm so glad to have you in Miss Nancy's Bible College for Kids. We had to take a little break. Sometimes things just happen. So we're going to start posting on Monday, and we're in the middle of Encounters with Angels. And so today is part 3, and we're just going to go through it. No questions and answers, but please just pay really good attention. Today's lesson starts in Genesis 32. And let's get started. Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. Remember, Miss Nancy says sometimes it's an angel, sometimes it's a man, the angel of God, the angel of the Lord, things like that, them, him. So sometimes you can't tell whether it's an angel or man. I want to go back and remind you of one of my favorite verses in the Bible, Hebrews 13:2. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, thereby some have entertained angels unaware. So now we'll get back to it. Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled he, a man with him, until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. Now this is the angel talking. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And this is Jacob. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall no more be called Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And anyway, this is Jacob wrestling with the angel, with a man, and I find that very fascinating. Before this, he saw angels going up and down, from earth to heaven and back. So the second encounter with the angel is in Numbers chapter 22, and we'll start with verse 21. I love this story. You guys know it, but I wanted to remind you of it. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab. Well, the beginning of this story is God had told him, do not go with them, don't go with them. And they was wanting him to come and curse some people. But finally God was angry, and he sent him, and he said, if they come back, go with him. And the truth is that Balaam went to them. They didn't come to him, but let's go ahead. And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord, we all know who that is, Jesus in his spirit form, stood in the way for an adversary against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, and his 2 servants was with him. And as the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand, and the ass turned aside out of the way and went into the field. And Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. Now remember, an ass in the Bible is a donkey, nothing to be ashamed of or laugh at. But the angel of the Lord stood in the path of the vineyards, a wall being on this side and a wall being on that side. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she thrust herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where was no way to turn either to the right or to the left. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with his staff. He took a stick-like thing then and hit it. And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass. And she said, so we know it's a donkey, a female donkey. And she said unto Balaam, What have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times? And Balaam said unto the ass, it amazes Miss Nancy that he doesn't stop to think nor nothing. He just lets the donkey talk and talks back to her. Anyway, Balaam said, Because thou hast mocked me, I would that there were a sword in mine hand, for now I would kill thee. And the ass said unto Balaam, Am I not thine ass, upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was dying unto this day? Was I ever wont to do so unto thee? And he said, Well, no. Nay, he said, Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And he bowed his head and fell flat on his face. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times? Behold, I went out to withstand thee, because thy way is perverse before me. And the ass saw me and turned from me these 3 times. Unless she had turned from me, surely now I would have slain thee. It means he would have killed him and saved her alive. And Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stoodest in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displease thee, I will get me back again. And the angel of the Lord said unto Balaam, Go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak unto thee, that thou shalt speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. So that's the second angel encounter that we've had today. Now the third one is in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19. And this is when, I'll just get started. Verses 1. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. In other words, his wife Jezebel was saying, I'm going to kill you. And to be honest, Elijah gets bent out of shape, but he's been through a lot. So anyway, when he saw that, he arose and went for his life. He was running for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough now, Lord. O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. He was ready to die. He gave up. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, here it comes, behold, then an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baking on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights, unto Horeb, the mountain of God. So an angel cooked for him. I love that. Elijah, that's pretty cool. But Elijah ended up all right. He didn't get killed, and he thought he was by himself, but he was not. So now we're going to go on to the next angel encounter. And it's in Daniel chapter 3. Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up an image of gold, and he'd made a rule, and whoever heard music of all kinds was supposed to fall down to this image that he'd set up of gold, and if they didn't, they were to be cast into a fiery furnace. So let's get started. In the book of Daniel, chapter 3, verse 10. O king, hast thou made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image? And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace? Well, there are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar spake and said to them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, he's willing to cut him some slack. If ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, in other words, I'm going to let this slide, boys. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. And he answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. So there's that angel that's in the fiery furnace. But anyway, after this, it goes on down, and Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because he took them back up, and the other guys didn't fare so well. But here's what he said. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him. So I just wanted to finish with that part. I didn't want to miss it. And the last one today is in Daniel chapter 6. You guys know this story too. But we start in verse 16. The king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into a den of lions. Now the king spake and said to Daniel, Thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. This is another story about where some tattletales went and told about a man of God or men of God, about that they were still praying to their God. And so he is throwing Daniel in the lion's den. He didn't want to. He got tricked into doing it. But anyway, a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his signet. That means it couldn't be unsealed. And with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. That means he wasn't eating. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning, and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice, that means broken, unto Daniel. And here's what the king spake and said, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me, forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. So I just want you to know, Daniel got rescued by the Lord's angel. He says it himself. And each one of these angel encounters are fascinating. And I just wonder how many angel encounters we've had down here on earth that we don't know about. You know, Nosy Nancy, I'd love to know about each one. But remember, we're going to start posting on Mondays, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye, kids.